This is actually the first giant recipe I ever did for Tasty. And what's better than an ice cream sandwich? A giant ice cream sandwich. So for this cookie, you start by mixing up your wet ingredients. Now, some people don't know this, but sugar is a wet ingredient. It's because sugar will melt down into a liquid state. Some science for you. So you whisk up all of your wet ingredients and make sure that's all well incorporated. Breaking these steps apart helps to make sure that you're incorporating everything fully so you get the smoothest dough you can without like overbeating it. So once all the wet is mixed up, you're gonna start incorporating the flour, so the dry, the baking powder and the salt. So now I'm switching to a spatula to fold the dry into the wet, and this again will help you to not overbeat the cookie dough, to give you kind of like a softer texture cookie, not a tough cookie. I'm a tough cookie though. Now, the best part, you can throw in the chocolate chips. Feel free to add as many or as little as you like. As many, most likely, right? Not as little, that'd be sad. So I used 2 cake pans that were the same size. If you want to do them one at a time, if you only have 1 cake pan, that's fine, but we happen to have 2. You can split the cookie dough into each of those cake pans and bake it like a giant cookie cake. So once your cookies are off and baking, now we're gonna focus on the middle layer, so the ice cream part. I decided to keep it a very classic, very simple chocolate chip vanilla ice cream sandwich. But if you want to switch it up with your favorite flavors or toppings or anything you want, feel free. I softened up some vanilla ice cream and threw that in a springform pan lined with plastic wrap. This will just make your life easier. So you're gonna smooth out the ice cream and you're gonna pop that back in the freezer to set into your disc. It's also not a bad idea to make sure that your cake tins that you're baking the cookies in are about the same size as your springform pan so that you have a uniform giant cookie ice cream sandwich. So once your ice cream is in the freezer and once your cookies are baked and cooled, it's important to make sure they're cooled, by the way, because if they're very hot, the ice cream will melt. More science for you. Now it's all about assembly. Put your cookies on your surface. You're gonna take out your springform pan, release the sides, flip it over, and you can peel off that plastic wrap. It should pop out really easily. No mess, no fuss. And then all you gotta do is flip that top right on top. A lot of the cookie ice cream sandwiches I grew up eating had like little chocolate chips all over the outside. So because I kind of wanted to replicate that, I decided to coat the outside of the ice cream in these mini chocolate chips. You could also coat it in like anything, like any kind of candy, chopped up candy, nuts even. Obviously it's kind of tricky to pick this up and bite it like a normal ice cream sandwich, but I cut it like a piece of a cake, which I thought was kind of clever, because then you can eat it like an ice cream cake. Giant foods may seem intimidating, but this is actually really simple to make. Super fun, super delicious, obviously. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you make this recipe, slide into my DMs. That was so creepy. You should not slide into my DMs after I wink at you. So, peanut butter cups are one of my all-time favorite candies. So naturally, I wanted to make a giant. This recipe is super, super simple, so don't be intimidated by its size. Just be excited by its size, because it's a giant peanut butter cup. So to start, we're gonna melt down some milk chocolate. Chocolate is chocolate. It's gonna be delicious, whether or not you temper it. And I poured that into the bottom of this tart shell pan. So you're just gonna spread that out nicely with a spoon or a spatula. And you wanna make sure that you're going up the sides of the pan. You also wanna make sure that you're doing this pretty evenly, because if you have any like holes or gaps or whatever, you just don't want them. Then you're gonna pop that in the refrigerator to set. Now we're gonna go on to the filling. So peanut butter cups obviously don't just have peanut butter filling. Fun fact. It's kind of like a fluffier, crumblier texture. So in trying to emulate that, I mixed peanut butter, and I mixed that peanut butter with powdered sugar and butter.
Do you prefer chunky or creamy peanut butter?
I prefer creamy peanut butter for sure. So once the bottom shell of the chocolate has cooled and set, you're gonna pour that peanut butter filling we just made right onto there and spread that out nice and evenly. Then of course, we're gonna top that with some more melted chocolate and spread that out evenly. And then pop it back in the fridge, finally set. So if you wanna make this recipe, I highly recommend getting yourself one of these tart shell pans that pops out. It's just gonna make your life a whole lot easier. If you only have like a regular tart pan, you could just still go for it. It'll still be delicious. So then, like I said, you want this tart shell pan because you can literally just pop up the bottom and serve. That's literally all you have to do for this giant peanut butter cup. See, it's so easy, but so delicious. I serve this kind of like a cake again, because I mean, you could just take a big bite out of it and eat the whole thing, but if you want to share, cut a big slice and eat it like that. But again, you could literally just bite out of it. Take a bite, do you. And if you make this, let me know, I want to see it. Slide into my DMs. Gotta stop saying that. A lot of times when I've made giant foods, they've turned out to be a giant mess, but this one was really simple and obviously delicious. If you want to see me make more giant foods, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. I don't know how that correlates, but you can.
You don't have to do a pun every time. You just try and make it.
I have to do a pun every time. Giant. You either get a pun or song. That's all I got. So this recipe I came up with based on two things. One, I wanted to make some sort of a dome, and two, I wanted to use Oreos on the outside to make a really cool visual. So I knew this recipe would naturally be cookies and cream flavored because I was using the Oreos, but I wasn't quite sure which middle of the thing I wanted to do. Could have done a cheesecake, I could have done an ice cream cake, but I decided to go with ice cream cake because it was kind of new, and also I just really love cookies and cream ice cream cake. That's my favorite kind of cake. It's what I have on my birthday usually. Fun fact. So I melted down the cream center in order to put it back into the ice cream base that we're gonna make, which I might add is my favorite part of the Oreo. Fun fact, another fun fact. This video is full of fun facts. So the base is made out of more like a whipped cream and a sweetened condensed milk, and it still freezes up and holds up like an ice cream would, but it's just a little lighter, I would say, less like creamy than an ice cream would be. The crushed up cookies will go in there also. When you're whipping the cream, you want to make sure you get it to the point where it's thick, but don't whip it too much because then it'll separate. So based on the size of your bowl, it might vary how many cookies you put in the actual bowl itself, but don't worry, just put them in until they line the full bowl. Now, some people might want to line their bowl with plastic wrap in order to get the dome cake out easier, but you actually don't need it. It will pop out on its own. The tricky part about this recipe was when I was testing it, sometimes the cookies would float up and not stay in place. So the batter had to be thick enough to be able to hold the cookies down. Then once you make your ice cream base, you'll dump that right on top of the cookies and spread it evenly to cover all the cookies. This isn't like a traditional ice cream. This is more like a frozen mousse kind of thing, but it's super delicious. And then super easy. Just pop it in the freezer and wait until it's done. You don't want to pull this out early because you will have a big mess. And also you just really want to make sure it's frozen solid so you'll be able to pop it out of the bowl easily. Just flip it over on some sort of a board and wait until it kind of loosens up and it should fall right out. And then you'll have this beautiful Oreo lined ice cream cake. The most important part of this was making sure I nailed that beautiful outside uniform layer, and to say, it looked pretty cool. Also, what's nice is that the cookies kind of soften up because of the ice cream, so you'll be able to cut into this pretty easily. I think this recipe is great for like a kid's birthday party because what kid doesn't like ice cream cake? And also it's so fun looking. Make it for your birthday party, whether you're 3 or 96. I'm sure you'll still love it.